A is for Alcoholic is a program about recovery. My name is John, and I'm an alcoholic.
And my name is Jerry, and I'm an alcoholic.
Join us as we go through the alphabet of alcoholism, one letter at a time. So this week, Jerry said, surprise me with the D.
Surprise me with that D.
You can take that however you want,
Yeah.
folks. But I thought that D, I wanted to ask you about your doubts.
Oh.
So in specific, or at least for me, I wanted to talk about my doubts in the beginning, because I had a lot of them. I mean, I still have doubts today, but my doubts in the beginning of recovery, in making that choice and saying, I'm just not going to drink anymore. And, you know, I think those, I mean, it's great to make that decision, but how do you go? Where do you go from there? I mean, what brought you into the first meeting? I mean, how were you skeptical? You know, how doubtful were you, or were you not?
Yeah. I think, a lot of my doubts laid in early recovery. I'm in line with you in that I have doubts now as well, but they're different kind of doubts, you know. But in regards to recovery, I mean, my first meeting, when I came into the rooms, it was purely self-serving. You know, I mean, my motivations were that I was at an impasse in my life and in my marriage, and just the way I was living life, I could no longer manage my life the way I was living it. And so I thought, well, what's the best thing for Jerry is to finally hang up my hat. Now, when I came in, I doubted I would even last a week. That was my first initial doubt, because I said, I'm done for a week. I'm only done for a week. And then I didn't go to any meetings. And then that week lasted 2 weeks. And then I hit 3 weeks. And then at about 4 weeks, I was like, man, okay, I'm at a month now. I doubt I'll make it past this month. I'm going to go check out a meeting. And that's how I ended up in the rooms. You know, I had a friend who was a cab driver, who would drive me around drunk all the time. And he was attending meetings of a different type. And so I went to a couple of those, and it just didn't work for me. So I ended up, you know, in the rooms I'm in now. But yeah, I doubted a lot of things. I doubted my recovery early because I felt like my motivations were purely self-serving. Because I knew in the heart of me that I was, you know, I could talk all day and say, oh, I did this for my family, and I did this to give my daughter a good household to grow up in. And those motivations were there. But in the very beginning, the motivation was, how do I fix things to make it easier for me? You know, and how can I learn how to manage this thing that's unmanageable? And then I realized I couldn't manage my drinking. There's no way. I couldn't go to like a meeting a week and continue drinking. I mean, I had entertained that notion quite a bit in the beginning. Oh, okay, I'll get leveled out, and then as soon as I'm leveled out, I'm dry out a little bit. I'll just have a drink or two here or there, and still continue attending these meetings. Mm-hmm. But I never did. I never drank because, you know, after sitting in the rooms, you know, and hearing all that stuff, I was like, oh shit, these people are talking to me. They're telling me. I know what I do. But yeah, I think at the beginning the doubt was my sobriety mostly. Now at this point the doubt, I don't know, the doubts are a little more complex, you know. It is. Yeah. It's a lot more complex than, oh, am I going to make it through the day? I doubt it. Or, oh, is my marriage going to last through this? I doubt it, you know. And now they're a little more complex. I think they got a lot of layers. They're tiramisu. Got a lot of layers. Yeah.
No rum or no grandma.
No rum. How about there's a 7-layer burrito. Very complex. Oh. Yeah. Lots of layers, man. Yeah.
The same. I think for me in the very beginning, I was doubtful, but I had the exact same thought. Was I'll just go a week. I can do 1 week, right?
Yeah.
You know, anybody can do 1 week. And 1 week turned into 2, because I just thought, like you said, I gotta get this together. I gotta figure this out. This is not working. And I don't think that I had ever said that to myself before. Well, I had said that to myself. I had said to myself, this is not working. You should probably get another drink.
Yeah.
But it was the first time that I had ever said to myself, this is not working and something really has to change.
Yeah.
And, you know, those doubts, how do I put it? I didn't think it was for me. I didn't think any sort of 12-step program was going to work for me. I figured I was just going to do this. I was going to do it for a week. Then a week became 2, and then 2 became 3, and you know how it goes, on and on and on. But I was also still very much not interested in any sort of seeking any help outside.
Yeah.
I was highly doubtful that this was going to last. I had, I had destroyed one relationship, and I felt as if I was going to lose the house that I was in.
Yeah.
Because of just because I knocked the walkover on the refrigerator because I was drunk getting a beer, and the people that I rent from come in, and I just felt like I was going to lose the house. I had started taking drinks on the job, and I was worried. I got pulled over by the police one night, and I had probably had 6 or 7 shots of vodka in the course of an evening.
Woo!
And over the course of a shift. So I was
at
work drinking, and then went home and I drove.
Yeah.
And I was going, 73 miles an hour or something like that on these windy little roads. And he, asked me if I had had anything to drink. And I said, yes. I said we did a little wine tasting after work. I had a little half a glass of wine, I think. And I just was terrified. And I sat there, and he wrote me a ticket for 65 and a 55. He said, I'm going to bring it down because the numbers skyrocket after that. And he said, just be careful. There's a lot of wildlife out here. And I said, thank you very much. And I went home. And so the thing was that I had seen all these things happen, and I knew something had to change. And I thought I was going to lose my car and the place that I lived and my job. And so I just thought, I got to cut this out. I've done it before. I did it before for a month, I think. I just got to cut it out and everything will be fine. I just got to get away from it, step back, and I'll be fine. I don't need any help. Mm-hmm. And so finally, a month goes by, and then 2 months go by, and a friend of mine who had been in recovery for a couple of years at that point finally said, hey man, just go on Sunday morning, go to that meeting. And I said to myself, yeah, fine, whatever. I don't think it's really going to help. I don't really want to go, but I promised him. I said, yeah, I'll go on Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. But I didn't set my alarm. I woke up early anyway. I intentionally didn't set my alarm. I woke up early anyway, and I said, well, I guess I'm awake. I might as well go. So I went down to the community center, and I walked in the front door. That was my first mistake, because they're never in the front door, these meetings. Nope. And I said, you know what? If I can't find this place, I'm not going to go. And I couldn't find it. And I said, well, if I can't find somebody to ask, then I'm not going to go. Then I'm just going to go home. Yeah. And then somebody showed up as soon as I said that. And I said, hey, where's the place at? And they were like, oh, it's around back. And I went in, and I was terrified, and I sat in the corner. I sat in the shoe section with the sneakers and the loafers, and sat on the couch. And I don't remember if I cried that first time. I don't think I did, but maybe I did. I certainly did subsequent times. Yeah. But it was just this huge, heavy, scary moment. And I got home, and I sat down, and I was like, okay, how are you going to do this? Because I still didn't believe that it was going to be of any value to me in my life. I really felt like I was going to figure it out on my own, and I was going to continue to drink. Yeah. And I said, well, I had a couple of people in my life, close friends, you included, who had been doing this for at least a little while and had found some value and were, it was working for them and their families. And so I thought, well, what if I investigate? What if I'm like an investigative journalist? What if I just go, you know what I mean? That was my... Yeah. I am going to go in with skepticism and with a whole lot of doubt, and I'm gonna do this. So I started to go, and I started to go. Still not really believing in it. And then there was one guy that I would listen to talk, and he seemed very quiet and calm and collected, and he seemed like he thought about what he said a lot of the times. And I said, okay, maybe I'll ask this guy if he wants to be my sponsor. And I remember contacting him on Facebook and then getting a phone call like 5 minutes later. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, this is not what I meant. I was like thinking, why don't you text me back?
Yes.
Give me some time.
Oh, because you're used to the drunk way of doing the drunk's way, where it's like, yeah, I'll send you like an emoji, like an eggplant emoji, and we got it all figured out. Yeah.
And so even then, even during my meetings with this gentleman, I told him this up front. I was like, it's not for me, but I'm kind of curious to see what you have to say, because I was still not buying it. I was still very, very much in denial about a lot of things. But and it's funny, it's like the little, they talk about the door opening a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
It just sort of creaks open, and it's super rusty, and it got to the point where I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is starting to make sense.
Yeah.
I don't know about this whole God thing, but a lot of this other stuff makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so he would just say, well, let's not worry about that part. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, do you believe in electricity? I was like, I don't know. What kind of question is that? He's like, I was like, yeah, okay. I get where you're coming from. But still, I was constantly trying to pick it apart and find some flaw or hole or something. And it took me, I don't know, probably 2.5 years, probably.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. At least, yeah. I mean, this is me being completely open to it and being completely wanting to be a part of it and wanting to be in my recovery has only been in the last 6 months, I think.
Yeah.
Probably only this year. Yeah, since the beginning of this year, since last winter or something. I mean, I always thought that it was something I needed to do, but that's how I spent 2.5 years, was being very skeptical of the whole thing.
That's interesting, because my experience is the opposite. I never. It seems like what I'm getting from you is like you doubted the program in itself. The program, you doubted it. Like you were like, this isn't going to work for me. This isn't going to work for me. And when I came into it, I there was no door creaking open. I mean, I like kicked the door in and said, I'm here. Somebody have me, because nobody else will. Like somebody's got to take me here. And so when I came into it, my experience with doubt was that I doubted that I could do it correctly. And to this day, I still doubt that I can do it correctly, and I have to be reassured by people around me, because I am, I'm a wilting lily, man. I need a lot of attention. I need a lot of people to tell me you're doing all right, because I have lots of doubts in the way I do it. And that's that fear we were talking about, a few podcasts back, was I have a lot of that fear, and a lot of that doubt is rooted in fear. Like, am I doing this right? Am I going to fuck this up? Am I going to go back out again? But I don't live with it all the time. They creep up, it's always in I indulge it. That's a better word for it. I indulge it. I don't wake up and go, oh, shit, am I going to drink today? Or am I working my program incorrectly today? Or doing my recovery incorrectly? For the most part, I feel pretty even keel. Like, I feel stable, which is enough. I don't need to walk around with a big smile plastered on my face. I just need to feel content and stable. And so my doubts are more based on me, which is funny, because it's the opposite end of the coin for you, where you're like, well, I doubt this program's going to work. These people have all drank the Kool-Aid, and they're all over here smiling at me, beating this book around, and I was more like, will you people have me, because I don't know if I can do this right, and even to this day, I don't know if I'm doing it right, but I must be, because I feel okay. Like, I feel better than okay. I feel good most days, which is weird. They used to say, how's life, Jerry? And I'd say, taken forever. I love that line from Kingpin. It was like my go-to line, life is taken forever. And now they're like, how's life? And I'm like, nah, it's not bad. Mm-hmm. It's actually, I can appreciate it now. So the doubts are funny, because you start off doubting that it's going to work, doubting you're going to work it, and then as you go on, you know what I mean? As you go later into it, you're like, well, me personally, I'm like, am I working it right? Now, what can I do to like level up or make it work better? Do I have the constitution to do so? You know? Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. When I see, it's shifted for me. You know, like I think in the beginning the only way to get me to convince myself that I should go check out another way of living was if I tried to say that I was already fine.
Yeah.
You know, I was fine. I don't need this, but I made a promise to somebody else.
Yeah.
Not myself.
Yeah.
I made a promise to somebody else. So, and I didn't want to let them down necessarily. So it was in the vein of, like I said, that sort of inquisitive skepticism.
Right.
And as time went on, I then found, and I looked around and I was like, oh, this is working for a lot of people. And then I was like, oh, well, what's wrong with me? And, in the beautiful and supportive way, there's nothing wrong with any of us, right? It's all
right.
We're all beautiful people and all that good stuff. But more so, not necessarily what was wrong with me, which I felt like there was quite a bit, and,
right.
But it was more like, well, how can this help benefit me? Like you said, how can I level up?
Yeah.
How can I utilize this in my own way, in my own words, in my own life, and make it work for me, in a way that I can accept, because I wasn't ready to accept, the idea that I really fucked things up. I'm going to fuck things up.
Yeah.
And not like, I didn't get a DUI, and I never went to jail.
Right.
And I didn't burn anybody's house down.
Right.
But I really felt like I had fucked things up, and I had huge potential to do even worse. I think was what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't, they talk about being in a hole and you don't have to keep digging. And I think that was the thing. I was like, I don't want to dig anymore.
Right.
And so then the doubt shifted to me and to what I was capable of and what I was willing to do. And for a very long time, I was very unwilling, and I literally didn't have the capacity for change. I didn't have the capacity for growth, I don't think, in certain points. And it just really, really, it hurt. And so I didn't want to do it. And that's fine. And I came around when I came around. And I think the doubts that I have today are ones of, whether or not I'm doing it right. That still comes up. Whether or not I'm doing enough. I never feel like I'm doing enough.
Right.
Is my program tight? Is it on point?
Yeah. Is it on point, right? Because there's that narrative in there that the narrative is that, like, if you don't do it right, if you're not diligent, you're going to end up back out there again. And I can agree with that narrative to some extent, but I'm not a big fan of fear mongering, but some people need the fear,
Mm-hmm.
Some people need it. Me personally, that's where my skepticism, because I feel like doubt and skepticism are interchangeable words. I mean, they're just the same thing. So my skepticism lies in when people try to throw that message out there of fear. That's when I get turned off, and I'm like, well, you don't know me. I don't know if you've met me, but I'm an awesome individual.
Yeah.
I'm not susceptible to your fear. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a very close friend of a friend of Elton John's. And, we can make these things happen. But I think, it's healthy to have some skepticism, and it is healthy to have some doubts, because that can keep you safe. But if it hinders you in, making your life better or making your life even livable, that's a problem. That's the fear once again. The fear talking. fuck everything and run, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah. What is it? False evidence appearing real, man. That's all it is, man.
Mm-hmm.
But I think some doubt is healthy. I think being overwhelmed with doubt is unhealthy, but it can be overcome. It can. It's a struggle, but it can. And then once you get past that plateau and you start climbing again, leveling up, you're like, wow, the air's a lot better up here, and the view's a lot clearer, and there's so much more clarity.
Doubt is protection. I definitely
exactly.
I definitely used that a lot.
Yeah.
Earlier on, and because I didn't to be able to change, you have to accept that there's something in you that needs to be changed.
Yes. Yeah.
And in turn, accept that you are not you're not living to your full potential.
Right.
You're not living life to the fullest. Mm-hmm. You're not doing your best. And as somebody who is as an alcoholic and being this sort of dichotomous, self-loathing egotist, that's a very hard thing to accept. Is to say, oh, I need change. I need real change.
Yeah.
I don't need to just quit for a week and clear my head and get the because at 40, at 38 or whatever, my hangovers were lasting like 2 days.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do it, and it wasn't enough. 1 week wasn't enough. 1 month isn't enough.
No.
And so just that. What was I saying? Just the idea that just doubt as protection and accepting that you need to fix something. It was very hard, and it took me a very long time just to be opened up to the idea that my ego could move out of the way for a little bit, and it wasn't about me.
Yeah. That shit's incredibly difficult, dude. Especially casting aside the ego, because ego is also protection. It's like the doubt is the chest armor and the ego is the helmet. You know what I mean? But then you're just walking around with all this shit on. You don't see the world as what it is. You just got all this shit all over you, and it's hot, and it affects your mobility. I mean, I got metaphors for days for that kind of shit, but like, that's what it really is. That protection can help, but it's a huge hindrance too. And putting the ego aside is a huge task, because all you've ever had to do is rely on your own ego to tell you that this is manageable and this works, even though it's not working. It's all on fire around you, and you're just like, nah, this is fine. Mm-hmm. This is doable.
Not until you get those armor piercing bullets of love and faith.
Fuck, dude. Or even just reality. That's the armor-piercing bullet. To me, it was reality. Just a big steaming plate of reality in a bullet form. And then, I think I agree with you on the love and faith as well. Just for me, it was reality is what shook me out of doubt and ego and skepticism. And, that's what shook me out of it, and what kind of helped melt it off eventually was that people cared about me. And people loved me. And not just people I didn't know. Strangers. Like, gave a shit about me. That always tripped me out, too. It's like, you don't even fucking know me. And you give a shit, I remember somebody really close to me telling me that there's like, thousands of people there that are rooting for me. They're in your stands, Jerry. They're rooting for you. And I thought, bullshit. Ain't nobody rooting for me, man. And then I started hanging around and going to these rooms, and I was like, fuck, this person was totally right. Like, I thought it was just false encouragement just to be like, get on that wagon, And then I realized, wow, these people do care. Selflessly care, because that's part of their thing, So then I'm like, well, I might as well make it part of my thing,
It feels good. But yes, steaming
feels
reality
good, baby.
will really break you down to a point of the what's the word? What's the phrase? The gift of desperation.
The gift of desperation. And everybody's different. Like you said, you had never had a DUI, or you never lost your job or your house. But I mean, for everybody, it's different. It's whatever you're willing to manage.
Actually, there was one job I lost because of drinking, and you might remember this one.
I helped you lose it because of my drinking.
No, actually, I was washing dishes
job.
at the coffee corner back in '98.
Oh, and I took your job.
And
yeah.
Wagner came back to town.
Yeah.
He came back to town and took my job. Or no, I was the prep guy. That's what it was. And he came back from Arizona. And they were like, hey, you want your job back? We just had to fire John for drinking too much and calling in sick.
I was drinking with you the night I drank with you that night, and then you got fired the next day. I like to believe for years that I just did such a sublime job of bringing produce up from the bakery with a nice wooden cart, but it turns out they just needed someone to fill a position who knew what was going on, and you happened to be getting shit-faced with me,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you did lose that job.
I did lose that job. I mean,
because of drinking.
At that point, I didn't really care. That was how
I
was 20 or something.
You were like how old are you? 20,
21, something like that.
21. Yeah, you were 21 because I was like 23. So, yeah, I mean, it's not like losing that job at Coffee Corner that started the spiral into your doubt as an alcoholic.
I think the spiral started much younger than that, but
much younger than that. Yeah, it was a slower spiral though. It gets quicker by the end.
The point is that it's different for everyone, and that one of the things I remember now saying, like, you don't have to keep digging, right? And I would say, well, I was convinced that I had to go and be worse than I already had, because I would hear other people and I'd be like, so then I'm fine. So then I don't need this shit, right?
Well, yeah.
That's what I would say. I would say it out loud.
Man,
I'd say to my sponsor, I'm like, so what? Am I supposed to go get a DUI and go spend some time in jail? Am I not dark? Have I not dug myself deep enough? And
yeah.
I was like, no, man, you don't have to keep digging.
No.
You've gone far enough. Thankfully, some people dig way deeper than you.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a cool epiphany to me, too, was that you don't have to keep digging.
Yeah. No, you don't. It also sounds like your alcoholic was talking to you being like, hey, buddy, you really haven't done all the work yet. You need to earn this seat. So you should get back out there and pats you on the ass, get back out there and see what havoc you can wreak,
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess I've had doubts as to whether or not I was worthy to be in the room myself, and then those didn't last long either, though. Like, I knew what I was. I knew what I was capable of. I always looked at it like the analogy of being in a room with the heater on, and some people can live, perfectly fine with the house 85 degrees, and a guy like me is just like, it is too fucking hot in here. I need to get out of this house, Like, it's all what we can manage. So, yeah. I mean, there's even that doubt. There we go. Back to the D again, dude. That doubt of whether or not you belong there. If you feel like you belong there, you most likely belong there. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you look at yourself and go, shit, I need to fucking stop. This shit's fucking my life up. Like, whatever. Whatever your reasoning is, then it's pretty likely that you belong in there. You belong with us. Come with us. Be one of us.
You don't have to worry about whether or not you belong. There's always room. They got a stack of chairs right around the corner there.
I know, man. They got lots of chairs, lots of folding chairs. Plenty of
so many chairs.
Yeah. Lots of they need people to make coffee, man.
They need people to clean up, they need people to take those flowers home, and those skanky ass flavored chickpeas that somebody keeps bringing in. They're like cinnamon toast chickpeas or something.
You're going to these fancy meetings with flowers and chickpea toast and shit. I get non-dairy creamer and black coffee, But they say back in the day you had to clean ashtrays and shit. But yeah, you have a fancy meeting.
Yeah,
fancy meeting. My meeting's not that fancy.
And it's all about that perspective, man. I should be grateful for the cinnamon toast chickpeas.
Yeah. Man, I want some cinnamon toast chickpeas. Guy brings in brings in some candy and the wrapper's too loud and everybody looks at him like it's the end of the world.
He's just enjoying his candy, man.
He's just enjoying his Subway sandwich or his candy,
So there's still a lot of doubts. I was doubtful today when I didn't want to get out of bed. I was gonna say I'd have the day off if I had a job, but it was just, I just didn't feel motivated. And so I don't want to keep throwing D's out there, but I finally got up and made myself go work out for like 35 minutes or something like that. And
good.
Discipline replaces the motivation.
Yeah.
Or it should. I'm not saying it always does. I certainly do not, I'm not always 100% disciplined. But when I don't want to, well, if you do it anyway, the idea is that it replaces that, in my mind, that doubt with a little more discipline. And then it doesn't matter if you don't want to, because that voice doesn't hold as much agency in your life.
Yeah.
It doesn't hold as much credence.
Uh-huh.
And you don't listen to it as much.
Well, the discipline tells you you've already done this every day. You can do it today.
Yeah.
Yeah, quit fucking around. You've already done this. Just keep doing it.
Thanks again for listening. As always, our music is by Neglect. You can find his stuff at neglectsound.bandcamp.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And get a hold of us at aisforalcoholic@gmail.com.